Today I'm going to demonstrate how the total effect of a price change can be decomposed into a substitution effect and an income effect. Suppose that we have two goods, X1 and X2, and that the consumer's original budget constraint is given by this red line. We can demonstrate an increase in the price of X1 as a pivot inwards of the consumer's budget constraint. And we can find the total effect of the price change by finding the Marshallian demand for the consumer at the two price levels. So suppose that this is the optimal bundle that the consumer chooses at the original prices, and that at the new prices the consumer chooses this bundle here. We call it bundle C, utility level 2. So this is the total effect of the price change, and it includes income and substitution effects. There's one way that we can decompose this so that we can find substitution effect and the income effect separately, is to do what's called a Hicksian decomposition. So first what we do is that we find the substitution effect, which is the change in the consumption of X1 that is due to the change in relative prices holding utility constant. So we rotate this budget constraint around the original indifference curve until we reach the new price ratio. And the point where this is tangent to the new price ratio we'll call bundle B. Note that this imaginary budget constraint is parallel to the new budget constraint because the price ratio is the same. So point B is the Hicksian demand at the new price level or utility level 1, U1. And the change from A to B is the substitution effect of the price change. So we can draw that as SE, the substitution effect. Note that the substitution effect is always going to be in the opposite direction of the price change, because if we rotate this budget constraint around the indifference curve, and the indifference curve is convex, then the only way that we can achieve tangency is if the substitution effect operates in the opposite direction. So if the price of X1 is increased, as it has here, the budget constraint is becoming steeper, so it must rotate around to the left. So the consumption of X1 is actually falling. To find the income effect, we want to find the change in consumption of X1 that is due to a change in income holding relative prices constant. And we know that our imaginary budget constraint that we've constructed here has the same prices as the new budget constraint here. So the income effect is just a shift from B to C. So we can draw quantity demanded at C, and this will be our income effect. So in this case, the income effect is reinforcing the substitution effect. They're working in the same direction. But this isn't necessarily the case. The income effect can also work in the opposite direction to the substitution effect. And I'm going to show that in one more example. Okay, so here we have an example of a Giffen good. Now, a Giffen good is a good for which over a certain price range the law of demand doesn't hold. So the income effect is so strong and working in the opposite direction of the substitution effect that a fall in price actually leads to a fall in consumption. So a Giffen good exists when a consumer has a very particular set of preferences so that their indifference curves fan up to the northwest instead of fanning out to the northeast. Note that the indifference curves still need to be convex and they still can't intersect, but that they're fanning up in a very particular way so that the income effect is going to be very large. To decompose the effect of this price change, we can do what we did earlier, and we can rotate the budget constraint around the original indifference curve until we reach the new price ratio. So that's what we have here. Here we have our original our original, hold on, my pen's not working, our original bundle A, where the original budget constraint is just tangent with the consumer's highest indifference curve. And after we rotate the budget constraint around the original indifference curve, we find a new point of tangency at the new price ratio, B. So this is going to be our substitution effect. Note that, again, the substitution effect is working in the opposite direction to the price change. So the price of the good has fallen, and the budget constraint has pivoted outwards, and the consumption of X1 has increased. Now, to find the income effect, we know that this imaginary budget constraint has the same slope as the new price ratio up here, the new budget constraint up here. So the income effect is just going to be a shift from B to C. And we can see that the income effect in this case is operating in the opposite direction to the substitution effect, and it is so large that it more than offsets the substitution effect. So that a fall in the price of X1 has actually led to a fall in the consumption of X1. So if we were to draw the demand curve for this good over this range of prices, we'll find that it's upward sloping. So at the original price level, where the price is higher, the quantity demanded is higher, and at the new price level, which is lower, the quantity demanded is lower. So if we draw the demand curve for X1, it looks like this. That should be P1.